Hi, I'm Adam Kapelner, Assistant Professor of Mathematics at Queens College, CUNY.
And I'm Elliot Gankaram, Master Students in Mathematics at Queens College, CUNY.
We're here to tell you about Gradesly, an app we developed over the past year. For theatrical effect, I'll play the professor of a mock class called Math 998.
And I'll play a student in Professor Kapelner's class.
We begin with my Google Sheet where I keep my grades for my class. This is real data, but student names and ID numbers have been anonymized. Here's Elliot on row number 30. This portion of the demo assumes we're in the home stretch of the semester, with 3 homework assignments remaining and a final exam. I will describe the spreadsheet and its format in detail later.
I want to see my grades, Professor.
Sure, no problem.
I'll first go to Gradesly and select my school. Note that Gradesly for Queens College is styled with both a subdomain QC and a panoramic photo in the background. I will now select my course from a drop-down of this semester's courses. My student ID and password were emailed to me at the beginning of the semester. I'll enter them in and press Lookup Grades.
Problem number 1 is solved. Now Elliot sees all of his grades for the 8 homeworks and the 2 midterms, and that assures him that I have the same grades used to calculate his final grade as he sees on his returned assignments and exams.
I can also click Advanced to see the weights of these assignments in my overall grade, which tells me how my raw points is computed. Now, Professor, where do I stand in the class?
I can show Elliot and his classmates where they stand in the class in a number of ways. On my professor page, all my classes are listed. Number 2 and number 3 are from previous semesters, but number 1 is Elliot's class from this semester. I will now open up the display options for this course and choose numerical rank display and percentile display.
Back on my grade view, I now see that I'm currently number 3 in the class, corresponding to the 96th percentile.
This solves problem number 2. Students are always asking, "Professor, where do I stand?" This is especially important in large, curved college courses. I can also display rank statistics for each assignment and exam, as well as min, median, max, and number of zeros.
Which appears now on my grade page.
And I can also display histograms for overall class standing, as well as individual assignments.
And there's also a point trail to see how stable my current position is.
Now, it is also possible that you may not want to allow students the ability to see their exact standing. So we can choose to show decile, quintile, quartile, tertile, or hide this ranking completely. Here's an example of the quintile with histogram shut off.
So now I don't know my exact rank, but I know I'm in the top 20%.
The point being, Gradesly gives us, the professor, the flexibility to give any amount of transparency for the student's information.
So if I keep on doing what I'm doing in class, what grade will I get, Professor?
This is a third classic student question that Gradesly solves. To answer this, we need to open the Grade Projections and Automatic Grader toolbox on the Professor console. Here, we select how we wish to assign grades, either on a curve, the default, or by raw point cutoffs. Specifying a curve is simple. In these boxes, we assign percentages of each grade type. The curve I picked is 21% A's, 30% B's, 30% C's, and 10% D's. It accounts for 91% of students. For raw point cutoffs, we specify the overall number of raw points out of 100 a student needs to get for a certain grade. Here we define A- to be a 90, and B- to be an 80, etc. For this class, we'll use a curve. We'll now allow students to view their projected grade, ranks, as well as the course curve for ultimate transparency. I will also show the projected grades in my gradebook, which I will demonstrate shortly.
I now see that if I keep my current level of work up in this class, I'm in line to receive an A. I also know that I would need to fall 5 or 6 positions in class standing to receive an A-. This information for me is really helpful.
Coming soon on Gradesly is the ability for students to enter grade estimates for future assignments and exams to see how their grade would be impacted.
I would really like that. I would probably play with Gradesly all day.
I think you should study for other classes and do your missing homework number 6.
Haha. Yeah, I'll get on that, Professor.
So now I'll return to the Professor portal and click on View Gradebook. On the left, You can see student names by alphabetical order, then by spreadsheet order. You can also see the number of times students have viewed their grades. In this mock example, only Elliot has viewed grades. Pressing the buttons allows you to see the grade page for any student. This is the same as a logged-in student would see defaulted to the full view. In the third column, you can see the students sorted by best performing and down. You view their rank, percentile, number of raw points, and their projected grade. The last column displays the lowest performing students and up. This is really helpful because it gives the professor a bird's eye view of what's going on in class over the course of the semester. Another great feature is the Contact Class feature. Here, you click one link and you immediately can email your entire class. What if I want to just email the ones who are having trouble to tell them to come to my office hours or review session, for instance? You can click here. Entering in the bottom percentage here, different from 20, will allow you to email just those students. Now, it is important to describe the spreadsheet that records students' grades. Columns with a green and blue cell underneath, beginning with homework 1 and all the way up to participation, are called the assignments. You can change assignments by creating or deleting these columns. The second row is display. If you place a Y in here, the grades will be released to the students. If it is blank, then the students cannot see the individual grade, but the points will be reflected in their total points. If it is marked N, then it will neither show nor be reflected in their total points. I use this, for instance, for classroom participation. I want it to count in the students' grades, but I don't necessarily want them to see what I've given them. The next row is the percent of grade. Each assignment column must have a number here representing a percentage. The numbers must add up to 100. The check is all the way on the right in this cell. If it does not add up to 100, it will turn red and you will see an error message. The required columns are ID, PW for password, name, email for email address, and grade. You can add any other columns you wish, but leave their rows 2 and 3 empty. Otherwise, Gradesly will think that they're assignments. Also, do not touch the raw points check column. Gradesly is built atop Google Sheets and Google Drive. This has a lot of nice features. First, I have all my grade sheets in one place in a folder in Google Drive called Gradesly. Second, if I have teaching assistants or graders, I can give them permission to only edit the columns they have permissions for. Third, I can use the Google Sheets app on my smartphone to edit the sheet in class, for instance. This is useful if a student needs a grade change on a homework or test. It can be done on the spot, and you won't have to be bothered with it afterwards. Now, let's fast forward in time to the end of the semester. Note how the assignment columns are now filled in with data from the students' scores. We are ready to assign grades. We return to the gradebook, and now the projected grade shows us what the final grades will be. If you're a real stickler, you can call those the final grades. But if you're like me, there are some fudge factors. Like I see here that this guy Wyatt tried really hard and probably deserves a bump up. And maybe that guy at the bottom did extra credit, so maybe he deserves to pass the D. We go to the curve screen and make these few changes by increasing the number of A-minuses and the number of Ds. Now we return to the gradebook to make sure it did its job. It looks right. At this point, we can assign grades by clicking the Compute and Record Final Grades in Spreadsheet button. We can now see that the final grades are now entered on the spreadsheet.
And on my screen, my classmates and I can see our grades are now final.
The professor can now officially enter grades by putting the spreadsheet side by side with their official school record website. At Queens College CUNY, this is called CUNY First. Depending on the school registrar, sometimes their website accepts CSV files that can be uploaded. All we do is we go to the Professor console and click Download Gradebook. You have the option now to choose which columns are exported. For illustration, we'll use the default, which is ID and grade. We then press the Download CSV button and obtain this spreadsheet, which is ready for upload to the school's registrar. There's one more feature I would like to demonstrate. Let's create a new class. Let's say I'm teaching Philosophy 101. I select Philosophy in the dropdown and write 101 as the course number. I know the class has maximum enrollment of 50, and then I click Add. A new grade sheet has been created in my Gradesly folder on my Google Drive, properly named based on department, course number, and semester. Opening it up, I have a format already prepared for me. Let's say this class has 5 homework assignments, 2 papers, and a final. I'll go ahead and rename the columns to reflect this and delete extra columns. Note that the grade sheet displays an error that the percentages do not add up to 100. So let's say the homeworks are worth 20%, so that's 4% per homework. The 2 papers are worth 20% each, and the final is worth 40%. I now write those numbers in the third row, which is percent of grade. And now the grade sheet is happy. What's left to do is copy the IDs, names, and emails of the students from your registrar's system, and passwords are already there. Once this is completed, we head back to the Professor portal and open the contact window. We now press Email IDs and Passwords, which will send each student an email with their ID and password for your class on Gradesly. Once the semester is over, wait a few weeks and mark the class as no longer current. Students won't be able to check their grades anymore, and the class won't appear on the main listing on the home page. You can delete old classes using the Delete Class Data button. It will be deleted from the Gradesly system, but the spreadsheet will remain in your Google Drive. Thanks so much for watching, and we hope that Gradesly can help you and your students.